Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Red Devils Disciples, and today we are going to be covering the Wolves versus Man United game that is happening tonight. Before we start off, we're going to talk a little bit about information and sort of news surrounding the club. We'll then move on to a few other bits and pieces, and I'll start off with what's dominated the news, and that is obviously Marcus Rashford. At the moment, everywhere you look in terms of sports media, Marcus Rashford is the thing being talked about. And for those of you that don't know, it basically stems from Man United gave the players a day off on Thursday. So Wednesday night, Marcus Rashford post-training travelled to Ireland, Belfast, and went out there with Roshan Williams, who is an ex-Man United Academy player, who's a friend of Marcus Rashford's, which is totally normal, totally fine to go out with your friends, you know, especially if you got a day off the next day. It's then reported that he stayed out till the late hours of the morning and a few hours before training, again on the Thursday night, and then reported in sick on the Friday morning. Originally, it was reported and allegedly it was said that Marcus Rashford's team had informed the club that the videos and the pictures and everything circulating on social media were from Wednesday night, not Thursday night, so it had nothing to do with missing the training, and later subsequently was found out that this was false and he had actually gone out 2 nights in a row. So what happened from here was he was dropped for the weekend game in the FA Cup against Newport County, and then he was ducked 2 weeks' wages for obviously for for his conduct. The club have obviously released a statement since, and they say that he's taken responsibility for his actions. And that the matter has been dealt with internally. Multiple times it's been stated by the club that the matter is now over and that we move on from here. Apart from that, we also have Ballestri, who has moved to Granada and is gone there on loan till the end of the season. Wasn't getting much game time at Man United. You know, it was good for him to get some game time over there. He does obviously play for Uruguay in the national team, and he plays really well there, and he starts most of their games. And so far, he's doing so well. But unfortunately, here his agent has come out stating that essentially, as long as Erik ten Hag's here, he cannot see Ballestri's future at Manchester United, and it would be difficult for him to return in the summer and stay at the team. Now, having seen that, I mean, if I was Ballestri, I'd be fuming at my agent because I am playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, and we can't always, we can't always blame a player for what an agent says. We've seen it in the past where agents have come out and saying all kinds of things, you know, to get attention and media, to get the media spotlights on it. But essentially what he's saying is he wants Erik ten Hag to be gone if you want Ballestri to stay at Man United. Now, to be honest with you, it's really disappointing. But what I'd like to have seen was a little bit less whining. Almost the attitude of, I'm going to prove you wrong, I'm going to go to Granada, I'm going to work my socks off, I'm going to destroy the league, La Liga, you know, and I'm going to make sure that you have no choice but to bring me back and play me. And it's almost they've taken sort of a whining sort of approach rather than that approach initially, you know. It's really unprofessional, in my opinion, and I think one of the big things that we have to keep in mind here is that Ballestri's contract runs out in 2025. So we need to make a decision on him this summer. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those situations where, again, we have a young player, a very talented young player, that could potentially leave on a free if we're not careful. Apart from that, there's rumours regarding Jose Mourinho. And what can I say about Jose Mourinho other than he left not on great terms, shall we say. Towards the end of it, he looked like he didn't want to be here, but also the players looked like they gave up on him and they just threw in the towel, you know. But apparently he's been reported recently saying that he's got unfinished business at Manchester United. Now, in 2019, if you remember, one of the things that Mourinho did say was that the club need a new owner or new president, is what he said. Then he said that they need a new CEO or an executive director, and they also said a football director, and then you should focus on the manager. And the reason he said that basically was saying is that our hierarchy and our structure isn't good enough for a big club of football like Manchester United. And to be honest with you, I couldn't agree more with him. I'm just not sure if he is the right man for us. But regardless of that, in December he did say there are still people in that club, and I quote, and when I say people, I mean some players, but also some other people, that are not players, that are still there. When I told United after 2 months, with these people, you are never going to do it. and they are still there. So he's talking about hierarchy there and players that he had told the club that should really be moved on, and ultimately nothing happened. They're still there to this day. And you think about how long ago Mourinho was in charge. We've got Erik ten Hag. Prior to him, we had Rangnick for 6 months. We had Ole prior to that, and then it was Mourinho before that. So you're talking about a good time period away, and players and management structure that is still there to this day, even though he told them to get rid of them. It is what it is. Have your say in the comment section whether you'd like to see someone like Mourinho come back in to manage Man United. Personally, Mourinho, when you look at his projects, they last no more than 3 years. He's very much short-term success, and I'd like to see someone stay in or come in who's going to bring us long-term success. And personally, I still believe in Erik ten Hag. I still believe he's the right man for the job, but again, only time will tell. The new structure that Ineos is bringing in will obviously bring in a lot and resolve a lot of issues in terms of hierarchy, in terms of recruitment, in terms of the medical team. Like we're being told that everything is being reassessed at the moment, which can only be good, and they want to invest into Man United and create it into a centre of excellence, which they have done in other sporting worlds like Mercedes. They've done it with, they've done it in France in the Ligue 1 with Nice, and obviously they've done it in also the other areas of business that they're in. Moving on from that, guys, just going to talk a little bit about the pre-match press conference. It was one of those situations where I feel like it was a non-stop bombardment regarding Marcus Rashford, and the questions from were literally, it was about 80% Marcus Rashford focused. I've written this couple down to read out to you, but questions like, for example, Marcus Rashford, what's the situation, his reaction, will he be in the squad? These things keep happening. He was talking about, are you imposing the right discipline on the squad? Do you find it distracting? How do you got the best out of Rashford last year? How are you going to get the best out of him this year? And it's one of those situations where this happened throughout the whole interview. Then they went on to talk about the fact that Rashford has recently got a new publicist, which is the same publicist that Ronaldo and Sancho have. Do you see it as a sign of challenging your authority then? They even went on to ask him, how is this different to Jadon Sancho's situation when Jadon Sancho was exiled, and Rashford's been welcomed back. I will say this, that it felt very much like the media was really desperate to create a headline, almost like click media, where they wanted a certain reaction from Ten Hag, and they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Ten Hag, calm, cool, collective, reacted really well throughout the whole press conference. And I thought that he dealt with it really well. His constant line was, "This is an internal matter that has been dealt with." I made a comment previously in the last interview. The club have released a statement, and that is what is happening here. He did go on to say at times that players at Man United do need to manage themselves. At this elite level, it shouldn't have to be, for lack of a better way of putting it, babied and sort of spoon-fed. Like if you're playing for one of the top clubs in the world, you should have a level of professionalism and a level of discipline that you impose on yourself. The manager shouldn't have to be calling you 24/7 to check up on you. But again, I thought Ten Hag handled it really well. In terms of recent form, guys, obviously the game today is a big game for us. We need a win. We need to get some momentum. United have lost 4 out of the last 5 in terms of away games, with the only away game that we've got any result was actually at Anfield against Liverpool, which was a big result for us, but we just didn't capitalise on that moving forward from there. In terms of our last 5 games in general, however, we've won 3, drawn 1 and lost 1, which shows a slight change in our results and form, which, to be fair, is to be expected by the fact that we got players returning from injury. So the club itself has a bigger pool of players to pick from. The players that are returning are big players for us: Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Martinez, to an extent Varane, and it just has a massive impact on our team. In terms of Wolves themselves, we've got the last 5 games at home. They have won 4 and drawn 1, so their form is slightly better than ours. if you compare it. And they've also been undefeated for the last 7 games, so they're on a good run of form. In terms of their last 5, they've got 3 wins and 2 draws in general. So again, their form is quite a bit better than ours at the moment. And the only saving grace is you look at the last 10 matches for between Manchester United and Wolves. United have 7 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. So history is in our favour. But I will say it is going to be a very tough game to go over there and get a good result out of it. Apart from this, we've got obviously all our returners from the Sunday game. So, Martinez, Shaw, Maguire, Casemiro, all back. Lindelof is back in the team. So we've got some good news there. He's back in training. Is he ready to play? Probably not, but he might be ready for a place on the bench. And some really good news on Malacia and Mason Mount, which is that they are back on the field and training again. They're still in individual training, not quite in team training yet, but the good news is they will be back shortly, again increasing the amount of players that we can pull from to start a Man United game for us. In terms of our squad, I have got Bayern Dia in goal. And why have I gone with Bayern Dia over Onana? Well, it's real simple. Onana's had quite a poor start for Manchester United this season, and his career at Manchester United, should we say. And he's just gone to AFCON. There were 3 games played over there. The first game he wasn't selected because he got there late. The second game he played, but he conceded 3 goals and he made 0 saves. And it's not like the goals were world-class goals, which, were worldies that he couldn't have saved. Like the Mane, I have the vision of the Mane goal just literally rolling into his bottom right-hand corner. And because he had poor positioning, it went into the back of the net. And then he got dropped for the 3rd game again. And I think at this point, you've got to give Bayern Dia a chance. Looking at Bayern Dia at the weekend, and I know it was Newport, and I completely understand, and he did concede 2 goals, but the first goal was a bit of a worldie. There was not much of a chance to stop in that. Took a deflection of Martinez and flew into the right corner. Bayern Dia was diving across. I reckon if the deflection wasn't taken, he probably would have saved it. And then the second goal, I don't think it was his fault. It was our defence's fault. They came down the right flank, poorly tracked by the right winger, poorly defended by the right back, and then poorly defended by the centre back, which ended up with a toe poke into the back of the net. Defensively, I've gone with the same team, so I'm sticking to the same back 4, but I do want to see more from Shaw going forward. I want to see him overlapping the winger. I want to see him crossing the ball in. I want to see him getting more involved offensively. Defensively, he did pretty well on Sunday, and I do think that he's just going to get better with more match time that he gets. At right back, I've got Dalot also. With Dalot, I want to see the same offensively, so still going forward, still making penetrating runs, but I do want to see a little bit more defensively from him. He tends to switch off at times, and that can leave us open and exposed. I want to see Dalot showing us that he can defend as well as he goes forward. A bit of a catch-22 because we do have Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the bench, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka is great defensively, but just going forward, he just doesn't really have that it factor. He tends to dribble and turn and pass back and slows us down, and but defensively, one-on-one, he is probably one of the best defenders in the Premier League when it comes to an attacker coming towards him. At centre-back, I've gone with Martinez and Varane. I just want to see them playing together more often. Last year, we saw us playing a slightly higher line, and I think that was because we had 2 centre-backs that could play a higher line and could pass the ball out, and were playing really well together. And I think this year we played a lot deeper. Hopefully, these guys, this back 4 can get a good run of games together. In midfield in front of them, I've got Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro. What more can I say about Kobbie Mainoo? I think the kid is playing some amazing football at the moment. He's real breath of fresh air. He's almost been the missing link for us in terms of he's almost playing the number 8 role at the moment, which is he goes forward but he also gets back and he tracks back, and he's got the legs to track back, which is really important. I think him and Casemiro, just looking at Sunday's game, had a good relationship with the passing. Keep it simple, nothing too elaborate, and just kept possession more. Casemiro did look slightly off the pace on Sunday. Made a few silly fouls that he probably shouldn't have made. But at the same time, it's his first game back and he's been out for months. So I think we just need to give him some time. And I do think the more he plays, the better he will get. Like anyone who's coming back from an injury. In front of them, I've got Bruno Fernandes, and the reason that I think that Bruno had such a good game on Sunday, and again, I've got to say it was Newport, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Newport, but it's not a Premier League team, it's not a Wolves, right? But the reason I think he was so effective is because having Mainu and Casemiro behind him gave him more freedom to make runs forward, to roam a little bit more, and not have to worry so much about his defensive positioning, because he knew that he was covered by the two other players. I think that's when we get the best out of Bruno, is when he's got that cover behind him. When you look at it used to be Matic and Pogba, or any combination that we used to have, they used to cover behind him, and that's why he was so successful going forward. I think that having Casemiro and Kobbie Mainoo behind him will get the best out of Bruno. On the wings, I've gone with Garnacho and Antony. Now, Garnacho, I feel like he's nailed down his starting lineup place. Antony, I think, deserves it after the weekend's performance. The only thing I want to see from both of them is a little bit more service to Højlund. I think that at the moment we are starving our striker, and we should be getting him the ball inside the box a lot more often. I don't want him getting it on the halfway line. I don't want him getting it outside the box. I don't want him to have to get it and run. I want the wingers to dribble that ball, cross the ball in, and give him service inside the box, so that he just has a tap in, or he has to fight someone for a header, or anything like that. But I want him as close to goal as possible. Apart from this, obviously I've dropped Marcus Rashford to the bench, and frankly I'd hammer home the message that his professional behaviour last week was unacceptable. His unprofessional behaviour, should I say, was unacceptable, and I would leave him on the bench. And if we were 2-3 goals up, I wouldn't even sub him in. I would let him ride the whole game on the bench. And then if we need him because we're drawing or we're losing or we need to chase a goal, I would then use him if we had to. But ultimately, I would try not to use him today, just to send that message home, And the reason I say this is we need to back our manager. There's too many players this season and last season that have no discipline, have lack of respect towards authority, and I think that they need to understand that they are employees of Manchester United. They are the players of the club, and that ultimately that is their job, so they need to be professional. Up front, I've gone with Højlund, who got another goal on the weekend, which came about because he hustled after the ball, not because of anything else. He wasn't given much service at all. He, like pretty much every other goal this year, he's had to go get that ball and earn the goal by himself, which is not what a striker is there for. The lack of service to him this year has been horrendous, and it's something that we definitely need to improve as a team. Which brings me to my 3 key things that I want to see us improve on today. One is more freaking service to our striker. We need that ball getting to him inside the box, like I've stated already. And then the term "nothing down our side" sticks out in my mind, because I think it was Patrice Evra and Rio Ferdinand that used to say it all the time. Nothing down our side. Nothing. Or was it Vidic? Nothing down our side. And that just sticks out in my mind. And it should be Antony, Dalot and Varane. Nothing down our side. No crosses get in. They're not getting past here. We're a brick wall. Same on the other side. Garnacho, Shaw, Martinez. Nothing down our side. We're a brick wall. And at the moment I feel like it's not happening quite that way. And we're leaving ourselves exposed. It's almost like we're trying to defend as individuals rather than as a unit and as a team. And I want to see us have a change in mindset of, doesn't matter if Garnacho's pressing, I need to be looking at the next man and be ready just in case that player gets past Garnacho to jump in the way. Almost in basketball terms, I would say Pistol Pete. So you've got man and ball, and you kind of need to know where everything is in space and put yourself in a defensive position where you can get to both essentially. And then the other last thing that I would like to see is us moving as a unit and as a team a little bit more. And what I mean by that is being aware of our teammates' positions. If we're pressing, we press as a team, not as individuals. If we are in possession and keeping the ball, well, we're creating triangles for the person on the ball to be able to pass the ball around, not just standing still looking at them. Too many times this year, if things haven't gone our way and we're going all out attack, everyone runs forward and leaves the defenders to try and bring the ball up and pass the ball around. But hold on, stop. Create a triangle, create space, time, possession, take your time. We're going to need that today against Wolves because they're an explosive team on the counter-attack. And the next thing I want to see is counter-attacking as the team. And what I mean by that is if we win the ball back, okay, we're disciplined, win the ball back, as a team we explode forward, which I feel we're getting better at. However, in order to get that, we need to be disciplined enough to hold our position defensively, which I feel we haven't really done as much this year. Moving on to the team that I think Ten Hag will pick. I do think Onana will start today because ultimately his Ten Hag signing. He's got a big price tag from the summer. So I kind of understand why Ten Hag would pick him. At the same time, personally I would go with Bayern Dia. And then apart from that, I do understand that I think Marcus Rashford will start on the bench today. And I think he will come on. It's not the first time this has happened. If you remember last year, he came late to a meeting by a minute and he started the next game on the bench and then came on at the second half. I could see something like that happening today with Marcus Rashford if we do need him. But I do think Ten Hag will stick to his guns, start him on the bench, especially with the amount of attention he is getting in the media surrounding it. But yeah, so I have predicted the score for the first time today. Let's see how I do. I don't know. We'll see. The score that I've gone with is 3-1 to Manchester United. I think it's going to be a very tough game. I think there's going to be goals. Wolves are known for scoring at home, so I can see them scoring. I just think that ultimately today, with our team starting to come back and starting to gel, I do hope we have enough to beat them today. Anyways, guys, that's been my pre-match review. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you do, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. Okay. If you would do anything different with the team, let me know what you would do different. Who would you start? Who would you play? Would you start Rashford? Would you start Onana? You know, who would you drop? I'd love to know all of that. So please comment down below on what you would do. And I'll see you in the post-match video. Have a lovely day. I'm excited for this one. Fingers crossed.